The first words out of her mouth weren't hello or welcome back. No, Karen Pierce. The HOA president stood on my porch, pointed her manicured finger at my chest and screamed, "This isn't your land anymore." Imagine that coming home after years away, after losing my mom, after keeping up with every tax bill and insurance payment, only to be told by some self-appointed queen bee that I was a trespasser in my own valley. For a second I thought maybe I'd stepped into some alternate universe. My chest was pounding, not from fear, but from the sheer absurdity of it all. That cabin had been in my family for generations. Carter Basin, it even carried our name. I'd poured years of my life into keeping it alive even while caring for my mom during her final illness. I walked into the yard expecting dust and weeds. What I didn't expect was a full-blown real estate exhibition, LED spotlights, glossy wooden signs announcing the Greenway Heritage Trail project, and a scale model of my valley sitting on a folding table like it was already sold off in pieces. And there she was, Karen navy blazer, spotless leather portfolio tucked under her arm, like a shield smiling that corporate smile as if she owned everything the sun touched. She raised her voice to the crowd, neighbors I barely recognized anymore, declaring my cabin functionally inactive and my land an opportunity for shared community benefit. The words rolled off her tongue like some politician on a campaign stage. If you didn't know better, you'd clap along. But I did know better. I knew the law, I knew abandonment procedures, and I knew my taxes were paid. Her language was nothing more than a glossy wrapper on theft. I didn't argue. Not yet. Instead, I picked up the little plastic boundary markers they'd planted around my lawn, each one a symbol of her arrogance, and carried them to her porch, set them down carefully on her steps like returning borrowed tools. The message was obvious. If she could redesignate my land, I could redesignate her porch as storage. Her corporate composure cracked instantly. "You cannot just move neighborhood planning materials," she shrieked, clutching that portfolio like it was her life preserver. The crowd shifted uneasily, and that's when Riley Moore spoke up. Riley was new in town, an attorney, the kind of person who radiated calm authority. "HOAs don't have eminent domain," she said flatly. "They can't seize private land. Abandonment is a legal process, and even then, land reverts to the county, not to a homeowners association." Karen's face drained. The crowd murmured. A seed of doubt had been planted. But Karen wasn't done. Over the next days, she escalated. She turned neighbor against neighbor with whispers, coffee visits, cookies, and lies about me being some absentee landowner trying to crush community values. People who used to wave suddenly looked away. I caught cold stares, overheard mutters, "You left for years now, you want control." It stung deeper than I care to admit. I even sat one night drafting an email to the HOA saying I'd remove the roses I'd planted by the cabin, maybe back down, maybe make peace. For a sick moment, I thought maybe I am the problem. Maybe I'm the selfish one. But then Sarah Johnson, an old neighbor, knocked on my door. She handed me a stack of HOA covenants, the originals. "There's nothing here about plants, colors, or land seizure," she whispered. "She's making it up as she goes." Sarah's eyes burned with the kind of tired anger that comes from years of being pushed around. And just like that, the fog cleared. No, I wasn't the problem. She was. Karen had built her power on intimidation and lies. I fought back. I documented everything. Her threats, her notices, her fake emergency meetings. Riley coached me on legal angles. Louise Harper, a 70-year-old who'd lived here longer than anyone, showed me an ancient granite boundary stone hidden under leaves, proof of original federal survey work. Each discovery chipped away at Karen's facade, but she didn't slow down. She doubled down. She called a neighborhood safety meeting at the clubhouse, invited everyone except me. I showed up anyway. She had charts, family photos on trails, sentimental speeches about protecting what we've built together. She framed me as a villain, a land hoarder threatening children's happiness, and the room leaned her way. Until Tom Bradley, a contractor, broke under pressure. He admitted she'd forced him to forge documents to show fake trail usage. His voice shook, but it was enough. Gasps filled the room. And then I pressed play on my phone, the red recording light glowing, capturing her sharp words, "Do you want contracts approved or not?" The sound of coercion filled the hall like thunder. Her polish cracked, doubt spread. But the war wasn't over. Karen mailed residents official-looking notices filled with legal jargon about damages and penalties. Panic spread. People cried, feared losing retirement funds, mortgages. But my inspector instincts smelled fraud. I traced the supposed news articles back to a content mill called Valley Collective News. Stock photos, fake addresses, recycled scare stories across 6 states. Riley confirmed it a scam, pure and simple, and Karen had been pocketing kickbacks. The outrage boiled. Neighbors began sharing stories, tax threats, license scares, forged contracts. A pattern emerged: systematic coercion, all designed to line her pockets. Federal investigators got involved. Karen's empire was cracking. Still, she reached deeper into her bag of tricks. One morning, 2 men showed up in fake uniforms, flashing bogus badges from made-up agencies, the Regional Environmental Compliance Group and Valley Fire Safety Authority. They spouted nonsense about watershed violations and fire hazards. But they tripped over Riley's legal questions, couldn't produce real ID, and fled when pressed. County officials later confirmed completely fabricated. She was impersonating regulators now. That was the breaking point. I organized a public demonstration. Biodegradable dyes poured into the watershed, tracing natural flows described in the original 1812 land grant. Neighbors, county engineers, even fire inspectors came to watch. Blue, red, green streams carved lines across the valley, aligning perfectly with federal survey records. The land itself testified. Karen stormed in mid-test heels, snapping, trying to dismiss the evidence. But she didn't know hydrology from a hole in the ground. She babbled about soil permeability, got runoff backwards, made herself look like a fool while standing ankle-deep in proof. Residents stared. County officials took notes. Fire Inspector Torres reminded everyone how those natural paths had saved lives during the wildfire, how tampering with them could kill us all. The silence that followed was suffocating, and in that silence, Karen's power collapsed. She tried one last desperate play, sneaking out at 3 a.m. with her sidekick Noah to tear down signs, delete files, bribe witnesses. But cameras caught everything. Metadata betrayed every keystroke. Neighbors recorded her intimidation calls. Even Louise handed over doorbell footage of Karen threatening her about old fire maps. Every move she made dug the hole deeper. By the time federal prosecutors stepped in, the case had outgrown our valley. Investigations tied her to over 20 communities in a dozen states, with fraudulent gains topping $800,000. Mail fraud, wire fraud, impersonating officials, conspiracy. The list of charges read like a career criminal's resume. Noah folded first, turning over message logs and payment records. Karen stood alone, her leather portfolio empty of tricks. The courtroom sealed it. Her empire of fear, intimidation, and fake authority fell apart in the harsh light of law. No more charts, no more speeches, no more corporate smile, just a hollow figure cornered by truth. And that's where it ended. Not with cheering or celebration, just her power gone stripped bare by her own lies. Because when people build their kingdoms on fear and deception, they eventually collapse under the weight of truth.